I want to give a special shout out to all my patrons first. Thank you so much to my Bibliospren, Bibliohowlers, and my Bibliomancers. It means a lot to me that you give me your extra support for my passion and hobby. Hi everyone, Petrik here. Today's video will be another one of those reading guide and also ranking video. And this time, it will be for one of my favorite series of all time that I have been talking about for the past, I think, 1 year or almost 1 year now. Of course, it is The Sun Eater by Christopher Ruocchio. Now that I have read everything in the world of The Sun Eater, not only the main novels, but also the collection of short stories and also the novellas and also the short novels. And I think it is time for me to make this video because I have been getting questions regarding reading order and also whether it's necessary to read all the companion novellas and also short stories. And I hope this video will be able to guide you on that aspect. And then after I talk about the reading guide, I will be giving my ranking for each main novel in the Sun Eater, all the available 6 novels in the Sun Eater series so far. So yeah, let's get started with the reading guide first. First of all, I want to make it clear that it is definitely possible to enjoy and read only the main novel. And what are those? Well, they are Empire of Silence, Howling Dark, Demon in White, Kingdoms of Death, The Ashes of Man, and also This Quiet Gods. I think it is definitely possible to read through only the main novels, but whether I recommend them, now that is a bit of a tricky question because there are some of the novellas and also some short story that I definitely recommend to enrich your reading experience of the main novels. No, you don't have to read all of them, even though I'm a completionist when it comes to some of my favorite series of all time. I want to always read everything in that world. And that's why I read through all of the collection of short stories and also the novellas. But when it comes to the matter of actually enriching your reading experience and you don't care about being a completionist, you don't have to read all of them. But I do recommend you to read some of them. So yeah, with that in mind, let's begin. The first one is Empire of Silence, but after that we have The Lesser Devil. And yeah, this video will be spoiler-free, so I will refrain from talking about the main details of each title. So for The Lesser Devil, this one, the story actually takes place in the middle of the events of Empire of Silence, but it focuses on Hadrian Marlowe's brother, Crispin Marlowe. Is it necessary to read The Lesser Devil after you have read Empire of Silence? For this one, it depends on what you want from this world, because reading The Lesser Devil will make you understand more about the dynamic and the history of the Marlowe family, which we did not get. Honestly, we did not get too many spotlights of the Marlowe family in the main novels, and understandably due to the way the story progressed and the timeline progression. But yeah, if you want to know more about Crispin Marlowe and also a spotlight on one of the religions in the Sun Eater universe, I think you should try reading The Lesser Devil. Plus, I do think that this is a great novella or short novel because I think, if I remember correctly, this one was more than 50,000 words long. So it is beyond the length of a novella. But yeah, I do think that this is a good novella, but whether you must read this one for your enjoyment of the main novels, I don't think so. It is not mandatory, but it is worth reading for its great story and also understanding more of the Marlowe family. And of course, after The Lesser Devil, we have Howling Dark. Howling Dark is the second main novel in the Sun Eater series. And after Howling Dark, we have a bit of a challenge here because we have 2 that we have to read before we dive into Demon in White. And those 2 are Queen Amid Ashes and also Tales of the Sun Eater Volume 1. This is the first collection of short stories in the Sun Eater universe. I do recommend you to read Queen Amid Ashes first, and this one, I do recommend you to pick it up because reading Queen Amid Ashes, it will, for a bit of context here, every book in the Sun Eater, almost every book in the Sun Eater, before we move on to the sequel, there is a huge time jump, like many decades, sometimes hundreds of years. Yeah, no kidding, that is truly the case here. And because of reading Queen Amid Ashes, I think it eased the transition into reading Demon in White. We get to learn more about what Hadrian and Valka and the Red Company is doing in the period of time between Howling Dark and Demon in White. Even though it probably won't enrich your experience of reading Demon in White by a lot, but I do think it is quite important to read it because this is the first time we will encounter Miu Danar. What Miu Danar is, I will let you read and find out, but it is an important figure in the world of the Sun Eater. So Queen Amid Ashes, I do recommend you to read it, and it is even better than The Lesser Devil as far as quality goes. And after that, Tales of the Sun Eater Volume 1. Now, for this one, honestly, this is my weakest title. It is my least overall title in the world of the Sun Eater. I'm just generally not a fan of short stories, and most of the short stories in Tales of the Sun Eater Volume 1 did not click with me, and I do not think they enrich my experience of reading the main novels in the Sun Eater, except for one title. And I do recommend you to at least read this one short story. The title is The Demons of Arae, and you will understand why after you pick up A Demon in White. It is very important, I think, to read this short story, even though it's only about 10 or 20 pages long, but it's enough to give you important context for the events to happen in Demon in White. And of course, after you have read Queen Amid Ashes and maybe Demons of Arae or Tales of the Sun Eater Volume 1, we have Demon in White. And after Demon in White, we have Tales of the Sun Eater Volume 2. Again, this is not necessary to read to enrich your experience of the main novels, in my opinion anyway. But as far as the collection of short story goes, this is even better than Tales of the Sun Eater Volume 1 by quite a lot. I think the quality is much better. The storytelling quality in Ruocchio's writing here is better than the one in Tales of the Sun Eater Volume 1. And if you did read The Lesser Devil, there is a continuation to Crispin Marlowe's story here. The title of the short story is The Four Devils. So at least read that one if you have read and enjoyed The Lesser Devil. But whether it is a must to read through this collection of short stories, I don't think so. You can still read the main novels and enjoy almost everything that happened. And then after that, speaking of main novels, of course we have to read Kingdoms of Death and then immediately to Ashes of Men. You have to read these two books closer to each other because originally they were one novel, but they got divided into two volumes. I think this division works actually, it actually works really well for the narrative, but I will talk about that later in my ranking. But yeah, read Kingdoms of Death and then immediately the Ashes of Men. And then before we read the penultimate volume, Disquiet Gods, we have plenty of titles to get through here. And should you read through them all? Personally speaking, I do think so. So what are those titles? First, we have Tales of the Sun Eater Volume 3. This is by far the best collection of short stories in the world of the Sun Eater so far. I love almost every titles in this collection of short stories. And if you have read Kingdoms of Death, you will want to read the first title in this collection, After the Feast. I will not tell you anything about it, but if you have read Kingdoms of Death, you will know what is the meaning of the feast, and you will know the importance of this title. You will want to read this. And of course, the other short stories in this collection were great as well, but the best one was the last one, The Daughter of Swords. Again, cannot talk anything about this one because this title contained a major spoiler for the series, and I cannot talk about it. But this is the best short story in the world of the Sun Eater, and it must be read only after you have finished reading The Ashes of Men. That's a wrap on the collection of short stories. Should you jump immediately into Disquiet Gods? Well, I don't think so, because we still have two more short stories not compiled yet into a collection, and those two are The Royal Game and also The Fangs of Oenos. And yeah, I do recommend you to read these two short stories as well, because these two titles, they are, well, they form kind of like a mini trilogy with Daughter of Swords. This is about Hadrian and also Cassandra's time in the planet of Jud, and I love everything about the planet of Jud. I wish we get more of them about the Judians and also the planet of Jud. I think it is a great planet, probably my favorite planet other than Colchis in the world of the Sun Eater. Well, that and also Forum. I think there's something about Forum that definitely click with me. It speaks sci-fi a lot. I must get back to the point or I risk this video becoming even longer than it should be. But yeah, my opinion, my recommendation, please read Tales of the Sun Eater Volume 3 and also Royal Game and of course The Fangs of Oenos. And then please read The Dregs of Empire. This is a short novel that takes place after the event of Ashes of Men as well, but before the events of Disquiet Gods. So yeah, that's quite a lot of titles to read. before you can start reading Disquiet Gods, but I do think they are all worth it because they definitely did enrich my reading experience of Disquiet Gods and also getting a bigger understanding of the world of the Sun Eater. And then after you read through all this, read Disquiet Gods, of course. And that's my recommendation for the reading guide of the world of the Sun Eater. Once again, I must remind you that it is possible to enjoy just the main novels if you find them too daunting. But I think if you want to get the best out of the world of the Sun Eater, out of the main novels, you do have to read the companion novels and also short stories as well. And those are the ones that I recommend, at least. Of course, it's better if you just read through them all. But yeah, now let's move on to the second part of this video. It is my personal ranking of the main novels in the Sun Eater. And I will start from my least favorite up to my personal favorite. And believe me, it is not easy for me to do this ranking. I have thought long and hard about this one, but you know what? I think I am settled with my ranking for now. Let's start from my least favorite, and it is Ashes of Men, the fifth novel in the world of the Sun Eater, the fifth main novel. And this will come as a surprise to some of you, but again, as I said, there is no bad book in the world of the Sun Eater. In the main novels, there is no bad book. I loved through all of them, and even for Ashes of Men, I still gave it a 4.5 out of 5 stars rating. So yeah, it's still a very high rating. But I think this book did suffer a bit because it came after Kingdoms of Death, which is an absolutely terrific and, well, incredible book. Really, I will talk about that more later. But yeah, because of Kingdoms of Death, I do think that Ashes of Men, especially the middle portion, suffers a bit because of my book hangover of reading Kingdoms of Death. And also, Kingdoms of Death, it was just pure adrenaline rush for me. The beginning of Ashes of Men, I loved it very much. It pretty much continued immediately after what happened at the end of Kingdoms of Death. And not only that, this book, it contains one of the most emotional Ruocchio section in the final sequence. Loved it very much, or what I dub as the volcano. Love it very much. It is emotional, powerful, and I don't think anyone can forget what happened at the Battle of Perfugium. But as far as ranking goes, this is my least favorite in the main novels of the Sun Eater. But again, as I said, it is still a 4.5 out of 5 stars rating. And moving on to the next one at the number 5 spot, it is the first book in the series, Empire of Silence. I love this one very much. I know that Empire of Silence received a bit of a mixed reception due to some of its similarity with The Name of the Wind and also with Dune. I think in the first book, more similar to The Name of the Wind rather than Dune, even though we can definitely see Dune inspiration in the rest of the main novels. But in the first book, it was more The Name of the Wind. But I am a huge fan of The Name of the Wind, and of course, I love Empire of Silence. But to me, honestly, it never felt too similar to The Name of the Wind, and I love Hadrian's story, Hadrian's origin story in Empire of Silence, and I love reading everything that happened in Empire of Silence. It was just so good. I consider it the best sci-fi debut of all time for me. I have never read a sci-fi debut novel as good as Empire of Silence. It is well written. It immediately showed that this is just the beginning of a massive space opera series. The hints and the foreshadowing, everything about Empire of Silence show that we are about to embark on an epic journey, and an epic journey it is. I love Empire of Silence. I think it is an amazing debut novel, and of course I gave it a 5 out of 5 stars novel. Honestly, from here on out, everything is a 5 out of 5 stars rating from me. And moving on, after Empire of Silence, on the ranking number 4, it is Howling Dark, the second book in the series. Now, this is where I usually recommend readers to try reading Sun Eater, because if you dislike Howling Dark, I do not think you will enjoy reading the rest of the series. This is a clear crossroads. This is a crossroads for you, for all of you diving into the world of the Sun Eater for the first time. If you dislike Howling Dark, by the end of it, I do not think you will enjoy reading the series. But personally speaking, even though the beginning of Howling Dark is one of the hardest beginning in the entire Sun Eater series, because the transition felt a bit off due to the huge time jump. But after around 100 pages and the main characters, Hadrian and the Red Company, arrive in this planet of their destination, everything changed for me. It is bizarre, it is, well, filled with horror as well, but at the same time, it is epic, and it is an incredibly important book in the world of the Sun Eater. Once you get to Disquiet Gods, you will understand why. But it is an amazing book, and it is the first time we finally get to learn why Hadrian is called the Half Mortal. Absolutely incredible book, and one of the most memorable climax sequence of the entire series. Although that's not saying a lot, because every climax sequence, other than probably Empire of Silence, every climax sequence in the world of the Sun Eater, they are all incredibly memorable. And now let's move on to the number 3 spot. This is where things are starting to get very difficult, but I have made up my mind and I will stick by it. This is Disquiet Gods, the penultimate volume in the world of the Sun Eater, and I loved it very much. I just read and reviewed Disquiet Gods, I think 2 months ago, and I'm still not past it. Yeah, I haven't gave a lot of 5 stars rating this year. I have talked about that quite a lot, and one of the main reason is because of reading the Sun Eater. So yeah, I blame you, Christopher Ruocchio, but you know what? This is the price of reading great books. Always happens. But anyway, back to my point, Disquiet Gods is on ranking number 3. It is kind of difficult to talk about this in more details because this is the penultimate volume, but there are many events here that I don't think I will ever forget. They were just so insane. And some characters, newly introduced characters, became some of my favorite characters in the entire series immediately, such as Nima. Yeah, let's just say Nima is one of my favorite characters in the world of the Sun Eater. And also, maybe, well, not one of my favorite, but I cannot forget this character, Ramantanu. Who Ramantanu is, well, you have to read and find out for yourself. But yeah, it is an absolute amazing book. Chapter 40 will forever be ingrained in my brain. One of the longest chapters, maybe the longest chapters in the Sun Eater universe, but also one of the most important one. Incredible book, incredible penultimate volume. Makes me super excited to be reading the 7th book, Shadows Upon Time, which is slated to be released in the year 2025. So now we only have 2 more books for the ranking. And believe me, I have really tried my best to separate them into ranking number 1 and ranking number 2, but I cannot decide. They have to be tied as the number 1 spot. So these 2 are Demon in White and also Kingdoms of Death. If Demon in White can be surmised as the glory of Hadrian Marlowe, then Kingdoms of Death is the despair. And these 2, they acted as light and darkness for me. As far as reading experience goes, they are some of the best reading experience for me of all time. Love these 2 books very much. They are on the top of my favorite sci-fi books. Some of my favorite sci-fi books of all time. The 5 distinct story structure in Demon in White work absolutely well for the entire narrative. And this was the first time we arrived on planet Colchis. And that's one of my favorite planets in the world of the Sun Eater. And that together with Forum. Those 2, the first arrival and exploration, both of them happened for the first time in Demon in White. And there are just way too many things to mention about the greatness of Demon in White, such as the arena. Yeah, I cannot talk too much about that. Again, the murder mystery. Again, cannot talk too much about it. And of course, the final battle, the Battle of Berenike or Berenike. Yeah, I love everything about Demon in White. And of course, the same can be said for different reasons for Kingdoms of Death. Kingdoms of Death is just darkness, and also one of the darkest books that I have ever read. It is devastating, emotionally devastating, and it is one of those rare books where it made me never want to stop reading after I reached a certain point in Kingdoms of Death. I remember reading one chapter. This was the first time I was in the Discord of Red Company Discord, and I remember I just went insane after reaching a certain point and just blurted my mind non-stop, blurted my heartbreak, my emotion non-stop through the events in Kingdoms of Death. Yeah, it was, I think I started reading at 1 a.m. Yeah, at 1 a.m. and it was a big mistake. Yeah, it was a big mistake because I end up reading up to 5 a.m. non-stop. Yeah, in one sitting. It was just so insane. And Kingdoms of Death is simply one of those rare books that reminded me of the first time I read Berserk by Kentaro Miura, and that is really one of the highest praise I can ever give to a book. So these 2 books, Demon in White and Kingdoms of Death, they are the best of the best in the Sun Eater series so far. Let's see whether the 7th book, The Shadows Upon Time, can top over these 2. I look forward to find out. But yeah, that's really my reading guide and also my ranking for everything related to the Sun Eater so far, up to this Quiet Guts. And yeah, that's really pretty much it for me today. As I always say, I always recommend this series to those of you who want to experience a grand and epic space opera series, and a very well written one. You cannot go wrong with the Sun Eater. But do let me know if you have read this series. Let me know what is your ranking of the Sun Eater. And if you haven't, I hope my reading guide have been useful for you. And that's it for me today. As always, thank you so much for watching, and thank you for your support. Bye-bye. Lastly, I want to say thank you so much once again to all my patrons who keep on supporting me.